With something, we're through our core values. This is something that we talked about last year briefly. I used this because I was talking to Mike about it this week in the office, and I had actually forgotten one of these parts of this presentation. I was talking to Mike. I'll bring that up when I get through it. But it's called the ICI, the Individual Contribution Index. It's a framework that categorizes team members based on their mindset and behaviors to promote alignment, personal growth, and performance accountability. So some of you may remember this slide from last year, how to categorize team members based on how they perform, right? So there's 4 categories here. We have thinkers, doers, watchers, and drainers. I'm sure you guys can relate to different people that fall into some of those categories, right? So let's go through them, right? What is the ICI? What is the Individual Contribution Index? It's a performance framework. It's developed by Cardone Ventures, which is the company that we work with, our business consultants, to help understand team members, promotes alignment. If you understand where you fall in this, or where some of your team members fall in this, maybe we can help switch or change how they act based on this index and how their actions are. Just being aware of what they are, or being aware of what you are too, as you fall in these categories. So the 4 categories again are thinkers, doers, watchers, and drainers. So thinkers, visionary, strategic, idea-driven, solution-focused. Strengths, long-term planning, innovative thinking, problem-solving. Thinkers are good, right? You would think somebody who's thinking on the job, that's a great attribute, right? Yeah, but what if they're thinking and they're not doing anything, right? What if they're thinking and they're watching? What if they're thinking and they're a drainer too? That's not great. So while being a thinker is a good attribute, it may not be if it's not combined with something else, right? Doers. So somebody who's working all the time. Is that a strong attribute? Maybe not, if they're working but they're not thinking, right? If I have a foreman who's a doer and he's got a team of 6 people on his crew, which we don't have six-man crew, but if I do have a lead foreman and there's 2 crews there, and that foreman just puts his head down and runs around with the string trimmer or runs around with his hand pruners and doesn't lead the rest of the guys, or doesn't think about where we're going to go next on that job, that's not great, right? We want them to be thinking also. So a doer is action-oriented, focused, consistent, dependable. Strengths are gets tasks done, supports execution, delivers results. But the risks, they can become overwhelmed without clear direction, may neglect strategy. So it doesn't have to just be a foreman that could be a bad risk too. It could be a guy on the job as a laborer. He's doing, but he's not thinking, right? So if the foreman guides one of the employees or laborers and says, hey, we have to prune all the deadheads off these hydrangeas, right? This time of the year, we got all deadheads on the hydrangeas. We're cleaning off dry deadheads from last year. Just go through your hand pruners and cut all the tips off of them. And he goes through, and he's just doing it, and he's cutting, and he just keeps going down the whole row, and he's just cutting, and next thing he knows, he's into the rhododendrons, and he just cut all the buds off the rhododendrons. That's not likely to happen, but that's an example of why the guy who's on the crew needs to be thinking too. But those two aren't as risky as the bottom 2, right? So we got watchers. What's a watcher? Watcher is somebody that doesn't do much and just watches, right? It tells you right there. Passive, observant, unsure of their role or value. They have potential, but they can be trained and developed. They have a lack of initiative, low engagement, missed opportunities. The value as a growth depends on the proactive leadership and mentorship. So if you got somebody who just watches all the time, is that somebody that's no good to the organization or no good to the crew? At that time, they're no good to them, but maybe they're just watching because they don't know what to do, right? So we've seen that. We've seen people that don't have clear direction, and they just stand back and they watch and they want to help, but they don't know what they have to do. Well, maybe that's just they need to be brought along, and they can be converted into more of a doer or a thinker. And then you get the drainers, right? The drainers, there's not much you're going to be able to do with those guys. They're the guys that every time you say, hey, we're going to do this, or why are we going to do that? Why don't we do it this way? Or why? There's no happy medium with the drainer. The drainer is always bringing the team down. Negative attitude, resistant to change. They undermine others. The strengths, there's often none in a team context. They tend to disrupt more than contribute. They have low morale, create toxicity, block value, block progress. So these are the slides, just like we had talked about, thinkers, doers, basically went all through this. Watchers, I think she's watching herself in the mirror. Drainers, that was a good one, it was a drain. So Ask yourself, what category do you fall under when you're working? What category do your teammates fall under while you're working? What can you do? You can't do much when you have somebody who's a drainer on the team. You can try to talk to them and bring them up, but they bring the morale of everything down. Don't let that influence you. So there's also two other acronyms too that I don't have on the slide. It's called PIOPs and NIOPs. PIOP is a positive influence of other people. NIOP is a negative influence of other people. So if you have somebody who's negatively influencing other people, that's a drainer, right? So you don't want to be an NIOP. Positive influence of other people is somebody who's positively influenced, who's bringing them up. There's a lot of things that you can't change. You can go out to a job and you can take a truck and a trailer and the wheelbarrow's got a broken handle on it. What are you going to do? There's nothing that you can do about it. You can still use it maybe, and it's usable, but it's not ideal. What are you going to do about it? You're going to complain all day because a wheelbarrow has a broken handle? It's not going to help any. Just you work through the day, right? You be positive. There's nothing else you can do about it. There's things that you can't change. And if you can't change it, then there's no sense in being negative about it. So we don't want to have NIOPs on the crews. But we look at that and we see that. If we see a crew where somebody's a drainer or a constant watcher, then they're not fit for the team if they can't be changed. So and don't let somebody like that bring you down either. Just stay positive. So that was. We get one other slide here. Why does the ICI matter? Identify team member contributions, helps leaders understand their team members' mindset, behaviors. Helps us, right? That's what we notice that. Helps us see who's in line for a promotion, who's a positive influence, who we want to send to a specific job. If I have a real high-profile job with a high-profile client that we want to impress, I don't want to send a crew out with a drainer on the crew because I'm thinking, right off the bat, this guy's going to be moping around all day, and it's not going to be a good look for our new client. We're bringing the team down. Encourages team members to take ownership of their roles and contributions. This is what we're talking about right now. Me talking about this, I want you guys to take ownership. This stuff that we talk about, these core values, understanding what you're doing and how your teammates are working every day on the jobs. Provides a foundation for coaching, guides leaders in contributing and creating customizable plans to support team members' growth and performance. So for us as managers to understand who these different people are on the crews helps us design what the crew's going to be. Like if I do have one person who watches, I'm not going to put 3 watchers on a crew that don't know what they're doing or they're just watching because they're not unsure of themselves. It helps us identify who's who and who can work better together within the management. And it promotes a culture of self-reflection, right? What we're talking about right now. Reflecting on what are your team members. So